My wife's father called me worthless trash in front of family. He got 3 messages the next day. Please stay with me as I tell my story. And please, do not forget to support our channel by subscribing to our channel, liking our videos, and sharing your loved ones. Your support means the world to us. Now to our story. MPO. He looked me straight in the eye, at our wedding anniversary dinner, no less, and said it. You're worthless trash. Always have been. It felt like the room collapsed. My wife's hand slipped from mine. Her jaw dropped, frozen. My heart pounded in my chest as everyone went dead silent. The sound of forks clinking stopped. A waiter nearby paused, unsure if he should keep walking. I felt 1,000 eyes on me, but all I could see was his smug face, full of hate and something darker, satisfaction. This wasn't new. He'd never liked me. From the moment I married his daughter, he made it clear I wasn't the man he wanted. He used to mock my job. Blue-collar clown. He once mumbled when he thought I couldn't hear. Subtle insults at family events became common. I always held back. I bit my tongue for the sake of peace, for my wife. I told myself it wasn't worth it. But that night, it became personal. He didn't whisper. He said it loud enough for everyone to hear. The drive home was quiet. My wife kept her head turned to the window, tears slipping down her cheek. She whispered, "I'm sorry," but said nothing else. I didn't respond. I just stared at the road ahead, numb. When we got home, I didn't sleep. I sat on the couch, playing the words over in my head. Worthless trash. Again and again. That moment burned into my memory like a scar. At 3 a.m., I opened my laptop and started writing. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to cry. I was going to act. The next morning, he received 3 messages. One was from my lawyer. I had recorded every insult he ever said to me over the past year, quietly, carefully. That message contained a formal cease and desist letter, warning him to never contact me again unless he wanted court involved. The second was from my wife. She told him she was ashamed. She reminded him how I supported her through her health problem, how I worked overtime to help her finish school. She told him that until he apologized, not to just me, but to her too, he was no longer part of our lives. The third was sent to the entire family group chat. A video, 1 minute long, taken from that night. His words clear as day. No one could pretend they didn't hear. No one could say I overreacted. He tried calling later. I didn't answer, because trash doesn't talk back. It gets taken out. The morning after he called me worthless trash, in front of the entire family, I sent 3 messages. The first one was simple, direct, and cold. It came from my lawyer. A formal notice for harassment and defamation. We had documented everything. Every rude message, every aggressive voicemail, and even a few quiet recordings where he crossed the line. It stated clearly that any further contact from him would result in legal action. The tone was professional but firm. He had always acted like he was untouchable. That message told him, in no uncertain terms, that his power had limits. The second message wasn't from me. It was from my wife. She had spent the night crying, thinking about how her own father could humiliate her husband like that, at a dinner meant to celebrate our love. She wrote it in silence, her face pale and unreadable. When she finished, she handed me her phone and simply said, "He's no longer my family." Her message was honest and raw. She told him how ashamed she was, how tired she was of protecting a man who never protected her or anyone else. She told him he was no longer welcome in our home or our lives until he admitted what he did and made it right. And she made it clear she wasn't expecting him to. The third message hit hardest. I sent it to the entire family group chat. No words, just a file. It was a PDF, 25 pages long. Screenshots of text messages, a summary of his gambling debts, and a confession he made years ago, drunkenly, not realizing I had written it down, about how he borrowed money from his wife's life insurance before she passed and never told anyone. He used to brag about being the strong one, the provider. That message showed a man who was nothing but a liar with a fragile ego. Silence followed. At first, no one replied. Then one cousin left the group. An uncle asked if it was real. Then 2 more left. One message came from his sister. "You've been hiding behind your lies for years. No more." By evening, he'd gone quiet. No rage, no phone calls, no shouting like usual, just silence. I heard later he tried to explain himself to a few relatives, but no one really listened. They'd all seen the truth. Not from me shouting it, but from his own actions, written down and exposed. He made me feel small for years. But in just 3 messages, the monster finally shut up. Our son's 6th birthday was the happiest day we'd had in a long time. Balloons everywhere. Laughter echoing through the backyard. Kids running wild with cake on their faces. My wife was glowing, snapping photos, laughing freely, like she hadn't in months. But there was one chair left empty on purpose. Her father wasn't invited. It didn't go unnoticed. A few relatives glanced around, clearly expecting him to show up late like always. Others looked relieved. No one asked why directly, but everyone knew something was off. Only a few days before, he had received 3 messages. The third one made sure he wouldn't dare show his face. The first message came from me. It wasn't long. I told him directly and calmly that after the things he'd said to me, calling me worthless trash in front of my own wife and son, he wasn't welcome at our home anymore. No room for yelling. No discussion. Just boundaries. He tried to reply, but I blocked him before he could. The second message was from my wife. She kept it short, too. Just 4 sentences that hit harder than anything I could have written. I always thought you'd be a role model for my son. Instead, I'm ashamed I ever let you near him. He doesn't need your bitterness. He has enough love here. Then came the third, the one he couldn't respond to. I sent it to a few close family members, the kind who always looked the other way when he acted like a bully. It was an email thread. Attached to it were scanned documents, old ones. Years ago, when he was playing the part of the successful businessman, he had confided in me during a night of too much whiskey. Turns out he hadn't just skirted taxes, he'd faked an entire year of income to get a loan, one he defaulted on and blamed his then business partner for. The documents backed it up. So did an old voicemail where he bragged about fooling the IRS. I never used it before. I never wanted to. But that birthday party made me realize something. He used shame to control people. So I turned that tool back on him. Now he's the one being whispered about. Did you hear what he did? Is that why he's not here? I always knew something was off about him. We didn't miss him that day. Our son had cake, gifts, and a backyard full of love. And the man who once tried to ruin everything? He sat alone, watching his power vanish, one secret at a time. He always walked into a room like he owned it. My wife's father, the self-made success, always dressed in loud suits, always talking over people. He bragged about how he built his business from nothing, how everyone owed him respect. At family dinners, he made backhanded comments about my job. He loved telling stories about how he handled people who crossed him. He didn't just want to be heard, he wanted everyone to feel smaller. I stayed quiet, for a long time. Not because I was scared, but because I was patient. I noticed things. The way he'd speak just a little too freely after a few. How his stories didn't always add up. He claimed he'd been cleared of some audit years ago, but I saw the way his eyes twitched when someone brought up taxes. He once laughed about writing off personal expenses as business ones, said it was the smart way to win the system. So I started keeping notes. Quietly. Every time he slipped up, every time he spoke a little too loud, I recorded it. Screenshots of shady text, photos of certain receipts he left out. He thought I wasn't paying attention. He thought he was too clever. Then came the night he pushed too far. He stood up in the middle of dinner, pointed at me, and said, "You'll never be on my level. You're lucky I even tolerate you." My son was right there. I looked at him, and something in me snapped. 2 days later, I made a call. I sent the file to the IRS, exactly as he once joked about. Detailed records, dates, audio clips, everything. Then I made one more call, to a legal contact I trusted, just to be sure I did it right. Weeks passed. I said nothing. Let him keep pretending. Then one afternoon, he sent a message. It wasn't angry. It wasn't loud. It was one line. "They froze my accounts." He knew it was me. I never confirmed it. I didn't need to. The man who used to control everyone with his loud voice and fake charm suddenly had nothing to say. He stopped showing up at events. Friends stopped calling. Some of his business partners backed away fast. He used fear and ego to hold power over. I took all of that with a quiet phone call and the truth. Funny how the loudest man can go silent when the game flips on him. She didn't say much that night. After he called me worthless trash at our anniversary dinner, right in front of everyone, she just sat there, her face pale, her eyes glassy. On the drive home, she didn't speak. But when we got into the house and closed the door, she broke. Quiet sobs, the kind that come from deep inside. She cried in the kitchen for nearly an hour, and I sat on the floor nearby, not knowing how to help. It wasn't just what he said, it was who said it. Her father. The man who raised her, who taught her how to ride a bike, who helped pay for her college. The man who also used shame as a weapon and kindness like a leash. She had always tried to keep the peace between us. Told me, he's just old-fashioned, or he means well. But I saw it, how tense she got when he entered the room. How she tried to explain away his cruelty. That night, there were no excuses left. She didn't sleep much. But by morning, something had changed. Her eyes weren't red anymore. Her hands weren't shaking. She asked me to sit with her while she wrote something. She stared at her phone for almost an hour before typing. Then she passed it to me. It was short, honest, sharp in all the right ways. "Dad, I love you, but I'm done pretending you haven't hurt me. For years, you've used words to tear down the people I love. You did it to Mom. You did it to me. Now you're doing it to my husband. No more. I don't care what image you think you need to protect. You embarrassed us, and you don't get to be part of our lives until you can admit that and truly change. Don't call. Don't show up. I won't be standing behind you anymore. I read it twice. She didn't blink. Just hit send. We waited. An hour later, he replied with 2 words. You'll regret this. She blocked his number without a word. And then finally, she smiled. It wasn't a big one. Just a small, tired curve of her lips. But it meant everything. For the first time, she wasn't afraid of him. She wasn't protecting him. She was protecting herself. And me. And our son. That message wasn't just a goodbye to him. It was a break in the chain. The end of silence. The beginning of something better. Generational trauma ends when someone decides it does. And that day, she decided. He never yelled. That wasn't his style. He preferred the quiet cuts. The ones that stayed under the radar. Not bad for someone like you. Maybe one day you'll earn real money. She could have married better, you know. He always said it with a smile, a laugh, like it was a joke. But it never felt like one. Especially not when it was repeated in front of others. Family dinners, holidays, birthdays. My wife would brush it off, call it harmless teasing. I let it go for years. Swallowed it. Smiled back. But deep down, I never forgot the words. Then came the night of our anniversary dinner. He waited until the table was full. The wine poured, the lights dim. He leaned forward, smiled that smug grin, and said loud enough for everyone to hear. Still can't believe you married this worthless trash. My wife's fork slipped from her hand. A cousin gasped, but no one said a word. No one stood up. Except me. I didn't shout. I didn't push back. I just reached into my jacket, turned off the small recorder I had clipped inside, and walked out. See, I had learned a long time ago. Men like him never think anyone is listening. So I made sure someone was. That night, I stayed up editing, clipped together years of recorded jabs, ending with his voice calling me worthless. I had everything I needed. The next morning, 3 messages went out. The first was a direct audio file sent to a few key relatives, the ones who always laughed along with it. It played every insult in his voice, unedited, undeniable. The second message followed 30 minutes later. A full transcript. Every line typed out. I highlighted the worst ones, especially the ones said in front of children. The third was a video compilation, photos of family moments with his voice layered over them. Birthday parties, baby showers, dinners. His cruelty echoing under smiling faces. By noon, replies started trickling in. I had no idea. I thought he was just joking. I can't believe he said that in front of the kids. He didn't respond. Not one word. For a man who never stopped talking, his silence was deafening. At the next family gathering, he wasn't there. I was. And no one questioned it. He used to say I wasn't good enough. Now they all know exactly who he is. Turns out, when people hear the truth in your own words, there's nowhere left to hide. He gave me the script. I just gave it a microphone. He always thought he was the smartest person in the room. He knew how to twist a story, how to lie just enough to sound believable. At family events, he'd pretend to be kind, polite, even supportive. But behind closed doors, it was a different man. Cruel, condescending, full of anger and opinions he only shared when he thought no one would repeat them. He told people I was lazy, that I was using his daughter, that I wasn't a real man. He liked playing the victim, spinning tales that made him look like the wise father trying to protect his little girl from a mistake. I never tried to fight his lies. I just listened, collected. Over time, I saved the things he wrote. Emails, text messages, screenshots of group chats he thought I'd never see. Even a few voice messages full of hateful rants, slurs, and threats. He didn't know how careless he'd become. After the night he called me worthless trash at our anniversary dinner, I decided I was done staying quiet. But I didn't write a long speech. I didn't confront him. I just hit forward. The first message went to a cousin he used to gossip with. It included a screenshot where he'd mocked her for her divorce. She replied with one word. Wow. The second went to a close friend of his. A video clip where he made a joke, loud and clear, about that same friend's adopted son. The friend didn't answer. But later, I heard he blocked him. The third message was sent to a small group, including my wife and 2 of her aunts. It had everything. Screenshots, voice recordings, and at the bottom, one sentence. You said it yourself. And he had. Every cruel word came from his own mouth. No one could defend it. I didn't need to explain anything. I just let him speak for himself. He tried to control the narrative for years, told stories to make himself look noble. But once people heard the truth, in his own words, the illusion crumbled. Calls stopped. Messages dried up. The man who never stopped talking was suddenly very quiet. I didn't ruin his reputation. He did that all on his own. All I did was show people what was already there. He handed me the rope. I just let it go. It wasn't just what he said. It was how he said it. Loud, slow, looking me dead in the eye like he wanted it to sting forever. You're nothing. Always have been. It was like time froze. The room went quiet, but inside my head, everything exploded. I'd heard those words before, from a teacher who said I'd never succeed, from a manager who let me go when I was already down, from the mirror on nights I couldn't pay rent. His voice dragged up every failure, every doubt I'd buried just to survive. But I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I remembered. And I planned. For weeks after that dinner, I kept quiet. No angry texts. No phone calls. Just watching, learning. He ran a consulting firm, loved to brag about his elite client list, his spotless image. But people who talk that much always slip. And he had. At a barbecue 2 months before, drunk and loud, he had told me things. Too much. I charge some of them double. They don't even know. HR doesn't ask questions when I handle things quietly. I've got a few married clients who like their secrets kept. He laughed like it was all a joke. But I took notes. And I remembered names. My first message went to his company's HR. It included a voice recording of him mocking a female coworker, using her name, calling her emotional deadweight. I didn't have to say anything else. Just attached the file. The second message went to one of his major clients. I forwarded an email thread where he made fun of the client's daughter, called her a spoiled brat with no brains. It was meant to be private, something he shared with a friend. But it made its way to me. The third message wasn't mine. It was from his wife. I had shown her everything. She had always defended him, looked past his comments, believed the image he sold. But hearing the things he said about their friends, even about her brother, flipped a switch. Her message was brutal. You humiliated me for years, and I believed you. Now I see you for what you are. Don't come home. The fallout was fast. He was suspended from work pending investigation. The client dropped him within hours. His wife locked the doors and changed the locks. And the same family who used to whisper behind my back, now they whispered about him. He tried to crush me with one sentence. But I made sure what came next didn't just hurt, it lasted. He made it personal. I made it permanent. He always controlled the room. Not with kindness, but with fear. People nodded when he spoke, even when it made them uncomfortable. He'd mock, belittle, and twist the truth, and everyone just let it happen. He wasn't just my wife's father. He was the self-appointed king of the family. Loud, respected, untouchable. No one dared speak against him. Until that night. At our anniversary dinner, he raised his glass, smiled, and said it like a toast. To my daughter's biggest mistake, this worthless piece of trash. The silence after was different. Not awkward, not confused. Heavy. Like everyone felt something crack. That night, I didn't get mad. I got busy. Over the next week, I spoke with people he'd hurt, nieces, in-laws, even old friends. One cousin had stopped coming to events because of him. Another had nearly cut ties with her sister over something he said behind her back. Quiet conversations turned into brave stories. I recorded each one with their permission. Then I made a video. Message 1 was that montage. It opened with his voice, calling me trash, and faded into the voices of others. One after another, they shared what he did to them. Some cried. Some just stared at the camera, cold and still. It wasn't dramatic. It was honest. I sent it to every adult in the family group chat. Message 2 followed minutes later. An open letter from me and my wife. We didn't accuse. We simply told the truth. We said we were stepping away, not just because of one insult, but because of years of control, manipulation, and pain. We invited others to do the same. Then came message 3. A formal complaint. He sat on the board of a local nonprofit, an organization built on trust and community. In the complaint, we attached parts of the video, transcripts of what he said, and statements from multiple people. We didn't lie. We didn't twist anything. We just gave the truth a microphone. The fallout came quick. He was asked to resign within days. Family members stopped replying to his messages. His usual allies didn't defend him. Some thanked us privately. Others sent their own stories. It turned out, behind that polished voice and forced smile, there was a long trail of hurt. He built his image on silence, on people staying quiet to keep the peace. But once one voice spoke, others followed. He lost his title, his influence, his audience. And the man who once ruled every room? Now sits alone, no crown, no throne. Just the echoes of all the people he thought would never speak. He thought I'd stay quiet. I always had before. When he made sly comments, I let them pass. When he mocked my work, I forced a smile. Even when he spoke down to me in front of my wife, I stayed calm. Not because I was weak, but because I was waiting. The night he called me worthless trash, in front of everyone at our anniversary dinner, something shifted. He expected me to stay still, to swallow the insult like always. I didn't. I went home and said nothing. Not to him. Not to anyone. But inside, something was building. Over the next week, I worked in silence. Every free hour I had was spent digging. Messages, emails, voicemails, things I had saved, not even knowing why at the time. Patterns of behavior, broken promises, even shady deals he thought no one knew about. I organized everything into 3 messages. The first went to his business partner. It included records, real proof of misused funds. He'd quietly rerouted payments through a fake vendor to cover personal expenses. I sent it without a subject line. Just facts. Let the truth speak. The second went to his wife. I didn't want to involve her, but she deserved to know. Photos of texts he had sent to another woman. Messages full of charm and lies. Time-stamped. Undeniable. I didn't add any comments. I didn't need to. The third message was to him. It wasn't long. Just a simple sentence. Check your inbox. He tried to strike back. First, he called blocked. Then came angry emails, ignored. He even tried getting other family members to turn against me, but by then, too much had been revealed. No one bought the act anymore. He pushed harder, hiring a lawyer to threaten me with defamation. I sent one message to my own attorney, who was already prepared. The response shut everything down. Now, I only hear from him through lawyers. No more smug comments. No more phone calls. Just legal letters that never lead anywhere. He used to smile when he insulted me, thinking he was in control. He never saw the storm behind my silence. What he thought was weakness was really patience. And what he thought was the end of the story was only the beginning of his unraveling.